Alrighty then, everyone. How are y'all doing? Thank you, everyone, for joining me for today's live recorded Just a Dude podcast. Today's subject, we're talking about Pokemon. Now, this is live recorded, so there are comments that I will be answering that might not be in tune with the podcast and might be in tune with the podcast. But as y'all know, as my previous episodes, this is a live recording. Now, let's see. I'm gonna go to this anime convention. I want to cosplay one of the two characters from Demon Slayer. I'm gonna have to look those up and get back to you on that, Andrew West. Anyways, everyone, thank you all so much for being here. I really do appreciate it. While we're talking about Pokemon, we're gonna be playing some Pokemon. I got Pokemon Sword and Shield here, which is at the moment their newest rendition of the game, other than, of course, the remakes of Diamond and Pearl, as well as the new games that are be coming out soon, which is The Legend of Arceus. Now, Pokemon itself has had a long-standing run, starting in 1982 when Satoshi started a gaming magazine along with his friend Ken Sugoromi, which was actually known as Game Freak. This was the beginnings of Pokemon. Hey, what is up, Pat Me? Thank you so much for joining me for today's live recorded podcast. I really do appreciate y'all, everyone, for being here. So, Pokemon started with this gentleman named Satoshi, who started off the magazine known as Game Freak, which eventually was the production company of the video game itself. Game Freak was a project started by Satoshi as a magazine talking about video games. And eventually he turned it into a production company for him to produce his own video game, which of course was Pokemon, which was accentuating his love for collecting bugs and his love of entomology. Actually, in his younger ages, Satoshi actually wanted to be an entomologist. And yes, everyone from YouTube, say hello to Pat Me. I appreciate y'all, I do. And of course, as he developed the idea for Pokemon, which was actually in Japan known as Pocket Monsters, to Nintendo, Nintendo took it full force and released a unbelievable franchise. The very first games came out in 1996, which was actually Pokemon Red and Green in Japan, and of course in the States it was Red and Blue. Alrighty then. And Pokemon always had this beginning style of enter battle as well as turn-based style attacks. And of course it all based around catching and battling and raising Pokemon. And this all actually was entailed within Japanese culture, where they would actually find rhinoceros beetles or rhinoceros grubs and raise them and use them to battle on logs. This was actually a Japanese pastime. And of course, Pokemon has since grown since its inception. In the very first beginning, of course, in the States, it had its first two games. And of course, with this release of the games came the release of the trading card game, which was another collection phenomenon in its entirety. But we are going to be talking about the games and the franchise of the games itself. Of course, Pokemon also did have mangas and animes, as well as a very well-versed novel. It was a franchise that has stood the test of time. And I know I'm messing up some of my words. That's because I'm actually, I'm not a little bit. I'm pretty dang excited because Pokemon has been part of my gaming childhood since its infancy. I mean, honestly, the very first actual game system that I owned that wasn't a second-hand game system was a Game Boy Color. And the very first game that I owned for that was Pokemon Red. So that is definitely just something that is entailed in my, just in all of my gaming, I've always played Pokemon games. I've been there since the release of Pokemon Yellow, and Pokemon Yellow was the first Pokemon game that entailed a companion function where Pikachu would actually follow behind you. And this was more in tune to show something off that was closer to what the anime was, because at the time when Pokemon Yellow was released, if I remember correctly, the anime was released. Some of the knowledge that I am putting out here is paraphrasing because I don't have all the source knowledge right in front of me currently. Now, it has actually been established that the character within the game and the character in the anime are actually two different characters, and the character in the manga versus the character in the anime are also different characters. I'm not sure if that's entirely canon now, but that was what I understood as to date. Now, like I said, Pokemon has had an unbelievably successful franchise, and it has come out with games since the 1990s. First, obviously, like I said, we went over with Pokemon Red and Blue, and then of course came Pokemon Yellow. After that, there was the release of Pokemon, I believe after that it was Ruby and Sapphire, which was on the Game Boy Advance, which was the next generation of the handheld Nintendo game systems. Now, after Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, there was Pokemon... Let's see, don't say any spoilers though if I was in the middle... Yes! I am in the middle of watching Demon Slayer. Please don't say any spoilers in chat. I appreciate that. But, as I was saying, after Ruby and Sapphire came Emerald. And then after Emerald came... I believe after that it was... I believe after that it was Diamond and Pearl, which was for the Nintendo DS, which was the next step from the Game Boy Advance, which actually featured a dual screen system, a touch screen and a display screen, which enhanced the interactiveness of the game itself. Definitely added to the franchise. From there came Pokemon Black and White, which was another DS game, and then Black and White 2, and then came Pokemon X and Y, which were the games released for the Pokemon 3DS. Oh, sorry, not Pokemon. For the Nintendo 3DS, which was the evolution of the DS itself. Now, throughout its entirety of its evolution, Pokemon gameplay has stayed the same. It has always been a turn-based, a turn-based a turn-based event battle, I guess you could call it. I forgot exactly what the word was. Sorry for that. But it's always been this way. The only things that have ever been upgraded throughout the games is the stat mechanics, the actual attacks, and the animations and the graphics, of course. And we've come a long way from having sprites jump up and down, and those equate to being an attack. Which is actually pretty damn amazing, seeing as this is what Pokemon is today. And, of course, Pokemon Legend of Arceus, which is going to be the newest rendition of the Pokemon games, will be featuring a whole slew of new mechanics within the games itself. Who is my favorite starter Pokemon, Andrew West? To answer that, my favorite starter Pokemon has always been... Some people are going to say this cliche, but I love dragons. And my favorite starter Pokemon has always been Charmander. Other than Charmander, because my favorite game has always been Silver and Gold, and oh my god, I cannot believe I forgot to mention Silver and Gold. So, I apologize for that. So, after Pokemon Blue and Red, and then Yellow, came Silver and Gold, which was technically the second generation of games, which started off in a completely different setting and a completely new roster of Pokemon added into the game. It was one of my favorite games of all time. And Cyndaquil was my favorite starter from that particular game. And yes, Fire Pokemon have been my thing, but the thing is, above Fire Pokemon, it's been Dragon Pokemon. And that is why I am so excited as the evolution of Pokemon as a game as it is today. Why? because oh no, it wasn't on the podcast. I made a mistake, but I'm glad I caught it. It wasn't too early on, but I'm glad I caught it either way. But yeah, Gold and Silver were definitely my favorite Pokemon games released of all time. And you know, honestly, when it came down to it, it also had my favorite legendaries. There were a lot of actual story aspects that were added in Silver and Gold that made it that much more, that made it that much more superior to Red and Blue in the story aspect of the game itself. Now, continuing on, after X and Y, which was released with the 3DS, there was Pokemon Sun and Moon, which was another one for the 3DS. Now, the thing about Pokemon is that every single different generation, which was, so Red, Blue, and Yellow were one, Red, Blue, Green, and Yellow were one generation. Silver and Gold and Diamond were the second generation. And then from then on, there was Ruby and Sapphire. I knew I missed that too. I knew I missed those. That's why it's so wrong saying Ruby and Sapphire. But either way. And either way. And then it came to Ruby and Sapphire, which was the third generation. And then so on and so forth. That way. Right? And each generation of Pokemon actually has had different Pokemon added in, as well as each game was set in a different region. The first generation was set in Kanto. The second generation was set in, I believe, Sinnoh. And then the third generation was set in Hoenn. Now, there are some things I will definitely mess up because there are parts of my memory that are a little bit weird and messed up. But either way, you know, that's one of the amazing things about Pokemon is that they've always been able to add into it because they just add in different regions. And these different regions all kind of in their own way, not even in their own way, it's actually pretty direct. Pretty directly, you know, they all are allegories. I guess I forgot the right word for it, but allegories to different kinds, different regions of Asia as well as different parts of the world. Like Pokemon X and Y actually set you into an area that was more like Paris. Pokemon Sun and Moon set you into an area that was more in the Polynesian islands, which I actually really liked Sun and Moon for that reason. But there were a lot of aspects of Sun and Moon that I couldn't get into. And we won't really talk about that in this. We're really just talking about Pokemon as a game in itself. And I love y'all. I really do. And, you know, that's just how it is with Pokemon. That's kind of how it's always been. Every game adds in a different region. Every game shows you something new, a different aspect. Even the additions to the generations have added in something new. You know, Pokemon Crystal added in something new to the second generation. Pokemon Yellow definitely added in something new to the first generation. Pokemon Emerald added in more story and a whole nother area to the third generation. I mean, each one just continues to build the franchise that much more. Along with, of course, there are trading card games, there are anime franchises, and the comic franchises that all have branched off from this amazing, successful game franchise. I mean, Pokemon has had movies, and some of my favorite movies of all time, like Pokemon 2000, I freaking love that movie. Why? Because it features some of my favorite Pokemon. Most importantly, Lugia. Lugia has always been my favorite legendary. Of all time, hands down. No one beats Lugia for me. I mean, not to say that Lugia is unbeatable, but Lugia is my favorite Pokemon. Period. And I know that sounds weird because he's not a dragon, but he's actually modeled after the silver dragon. Actually, the blue dragon. There's actually a lot of interesting trivia that goes into Lugia itself. That might be for another podcast in its entirety. But I digress. Now, within the Pokemon games, of course, within each game, they have added in different things. Within the second generation, they added in you being able to interact with the environment, such as headbutting the trees to allow Pokemon to fall in. allowing you to cut the grass itself, and other things such as that were added in within the second generation of the game. And then, of course, as Pokemon evolved, they also added in encounters. Encounters, that's the word I was looking for when I was first talking about how the gameplay went. Anyways, well, they evolved from random encounters within the grass to having encounters within the grass, as well as having wild Pokemon walking around, adding into the, I guess, realism of the game that there are just Pokemon walking around in this world. And that made it that much more charming. I actually really like that they added that aspect into the games. And of course, the animations that they've overhauled to make the game, to make the attacks, and just the whole overall gameplay dynamic that much more enjoyable. I mean, of course, people have had their complaints as Pokemon has continued on. You know, there have been some stale moments within Pokemon franchises, within the gameplay, as well as in the evolution of the attack mechanics and the overall graphics of the game itself. For a long time, Pokemon was still a 2D top-down fashion style game. Let's see, my favorite series, and of course, my favorite series will always be Black and White. Reshiram and Zekrom will always be my favorite legendaries. Also, Keldo. No, don't get me wrong. Those legendaries are actually really, really amazing. Excuse me. Holding in a burp. Keldo, for being one of those legendaries that could change into different shapes, if I remember correctly. And then, of course, there was Reshiram and Zekrom. I mean, yes, those were really cool legendary dragons. I mean, they were one of the... No. Rayquaza... No. Yeah, Rayquaza, I believe, was the actual first legendary dragon implemented into the games. And I actually really like Rayquaza. His design was actually really, really cool. And of course, as the, you know... Let me see, are you going to be live after you're done with your podcast? Because I got something serious talking about you. Pat me, no, I will not be live after my podcast. I actually will be ending my live after I'm done with my podcast. If you do want to talk to me, you are more than welcome to DM me. You know I'm always here for everybody in my community. Open heart and open ear. Alright, my friend? Let's see, Rayquaza and the Reggie Squad are my favorite. And the Reggie Squad has grown. It has grown throughout each game. We went from having the 3 Reggies, you know, Reggie Rock, Reggie Steel, and Reggie Ice. And then we went to Reggie Giga. And then from there we went to... Now there's Reggie Electro, or Reggie Electri, Reggie Drago. There's so many more Reggies now. Let's see, they're great value, Zekrom and Reshiram. Kyurem. Ah, dude, don't hate on Kyurem. Kyurem was pretty much like the fusion of the two. But yeah, no, I get where you're coming from with that. So as I said, like, as the gameplay mechanics evolved within just the overall world, the mechanics evolved within the battles themselves as well. They're adding in different types of mechanics, different types. They added in dark types, steel types. These were all things that were added in later on with different renditions of the game as the generations continued on with the franchise itself. And of course, they also added in things like Mega Evolutions and Primal Evolutions. They added it in, and of course, this particular one. One day, yes, my friend, this one, yes, definitely. And in this particular one, they added in, I forgot exactly what it's called, but essentially Pokemon that turned Gigantamax. They turned in Gigantamax Pokemon in this one, which all of these mechanics added in something interesting and very, very, very cool. Hey, what's up, Riot? Thank you so much for joining me today on my podcast. I really do appreciate it. Now, of course, as I was talking about it, Pokemon has evolved more than just its games. It has multiple Pokemon card trading card booster packs released consistently. And there are There are Pokemon cards that are worth a fortune nowadays. And honestly, I regret selling. Actually, I didn't even sell my Pokemon cards. I gave my Pokemon cards away to a girl that I had a crush on, hoping that it would get me some leeway. It definitely did not. But either way, you know, you learn, you live, you love, you hate. You learn, you love, you lose, and you move on, kind of thing, right? And anyways, as I was going on with my today's podcast, Pokemon. So there's also have been, of course, the anime itself, or the cartoon, whatever you really want to call it, which was aired in Japan, of course, as well as on WB Kids, and has continued on and evolved as the games evolved. I mean, there are as many seasons as there are games, if not more, which is amazing to say the least when you think about how Ash doesn't age. I can just see the chat on YouTube. I'm just trolling. Let's see. Fun fact: I deadass have class specifics for trading cards, and I get credit for talking about anime. That is amazing. Living the dream, Andrew. Living the dream. But either way, now of course there is also from the anime, which is a kids cartoon. There have been some kind of tough aspects shown in the cartoon, but for the most part, it has stayed true to its kids-friendly aspect. The manga is very much so not kids-friendly, featuring a lot of adult level content. Not to say it's pornographic or anything, but there are just a lot of adult concepts within the manga. And unlike within the games and in the show, unlike within the games and the show, in the manga, Pokemon die. Pokemon die graphic deaths. And the world is a very dark place in the manga. Like the Elite Four try to destroy the world. It's not a cool place. But that's pretty much part of the course for the dark side of Pokemon, honestly. Alright, got leveled up. And of course, Pokemon and evolution has always been one of the tropes within the game itself. You know, the game was the game was originally created as Satoshi's way to help him share his love of entomology, collecting bugs, raising them, learning about them, and all of these things, which are all aspects that the games, the shows, the manga, and even the trading cards all accentuate upon. And there are so many teaching points that Pokemon can help you with and teach you. There are things that I learned growing up playing Pokemon and watching Pokemon and reading Pokemon. Let's see. If you watch YouTube, you sleep with socks on. Listen, I sleep with socks on sometimes when it's cold. Don't you be knocking that, man. It's nice and comfy sometimes if you got the right type of socks. But either way, I digress. So, that really kind of sums it up with really all I have to say about Pokemon for now. I really do appreciate y'all joining me for today's Just a Dude podcast, talking about Pokemon. Mostly a lot about rambling about the games, honestly, but I really do appreciate anybody who takes a chance to watch this, and of course, everybody who is here on today's live, Captain Fleeve, Pat Me, Andrew West, Riot, you guys are freaking amazing. I love you, and of course I'm weird. If I wasn't weird, I would be boring as hell. Anyways, of course, anybody here who is watching on YouTube, please do smash that like button, comment, share, and tell your friends. Y'all have a wonderful day. I love y'all, and Love Train rolling on through. Choo choo. Y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day now.